Most people will live their entire lives without ever knowing a sense of peace. Not because they don't try, but because they're missing this one key thing. If you're wondering why you should be listening to me, I'm Matthew 𝐚𝐭𝐬, and I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs, high performers over the last 14 years. And I can tell you, peace isn't about working less or escaping pressure. It comes down to this one thing. And if you don't have it, you'll never truly feel at peace, no matter how successful you are. I was recently on the phone with a client who has what most people would say they would dream of. He built a wildly successful online business, made millions, bought a yacht, and spent his days sailing around the world with his girlfriend. From the outside, it looked like he was living the dream. But behind the scenes, he was battling panic attacks and crushing waves of anxiety. And he kept asking himself, why? I've checked every box. I'm free, wealthy, in love, surrounded by friends. What on earth do I have to be stressed about? That confusion ate him up on a daily basis. And as time went on, his health collapsed. His relationship spiraled. He became bedridden for months. Doctors gave him the obvious answer. It's anxiety, but not the deeper reason as to why. And here's the truth. What he was missing was the same thing that I've seen missing in countless high performers over the past 20 years. The one critical element, your nervous system needs to feel safe. And when it comes to safety, it's not about what you're thinking, it's not about what you're doing, it's about what your nervous system perceives. The one thing your nervous system is looking to feel is safety. And that is the key element. That's what I call the safety anchor. And there are two components to the safety anchor that have to be in place so that you have balance. The first one is value, and the second one is connection. Let's talk about this value one first. I worked with a high-level executive who looked unstoppable from the outside. C-suite title, brilliant, capable, running on overdrive. Inside, autoimmune disease, exhaustion, digestive problems, sleepless nights. She was missing the value part of her safety anchor, which is this inner knowing that I'm valued and I'm loved. When that's shaky, we create masks to create the feeling of safety, but we never actually feel safe. And here are the 5 common masks that you'll see people wear. The first mask is what I call the performer mask. And the performer mask sounds like, if I impress, I'll be safe. If I perform, I'll be safe. If I produce, I'll be safe because people will value me as that version of myself. Right? That's performer. The second one is the achiever. The achiever mask relates to the world. If I keep going, I won't fall behind. It's the fear of slowing down. Like it's go, 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 go. Can't really sit still. I just have to keep moving forward. I have to keep achieving. All right? That's number 2. Number 3 is the protector mask. The protector mask lives in a way, if I let anything go, everything's going to collapse. So there's this sense of having to have control over everything, feeling responsible for everything, like you're holding up the world, so to speak. Number 4, the lone wolf. You can imagine what this one is. It's basically like, no one's coming, I'm on my own, I got to figure this out myself. So there's this sense of you really can't trust others, right? I got to rely on me only. I got to do this all by myself. Very heavy burden to carry. And number 5, very popular one, the pleaser mask. And the pleaser mask basically orients to, as long as everyone around me is happy, I'm safe. And I have this role of making sure everybody's happy, which is what gives me value. This particular executive wore the pleaser mask. She was the go-to for everyone. Her team, her family, her parent, her spouse. It worked temporarily, but the nervous system always knows. Masks can't create that safety. The second part of the anchor is connection. And connection refers really to being connected to yourself and the environment. And the way you know if you're connected is if you can answer a couple of questions. Do you know who you are? Do you know what you're feeling? Are you aware of the sensations in your body? And are you connected and aware of things that are happening around you? One indication that you're not connected to things in your environment or what's happening around you is if you feel like you're constantly being blindsided by things. If you're constantly being blindsided by things, then the map that you have doesn't match the territory. Meaning you perceive that you're in one environment, but your environment continually showing you that you're not in that environment. This is crazy dysregulating and has the nervous system on edge all the time. And so that disconnection to yourself and your environment, super dysregulating, which means no amount of meditating, no amount of supplements, no amount of blood tests and medication or sleep hacks and cold plunges is going to make a difference. You've got to address the connection aspect of the safety anchor or you're going to be running around in circles. The young man on the yacht is a perfect example of this. He grew up in chaos. His father was a drug dealer. His mom, doing her best, kept telling him everything was okay, even though he knew and perceived that things weren't okay. So his nervous system learned to disconnect from danger in the environment and take on the story of everything's fine, everything's okay. Basically, don't listen or trust what you intuitively know or what your nervous system's communicating to you. Fast forward 30 years, and he's still living in the same pattern, convincing himself that everything's okay, even when there are things in his environment that are clearly not okay. So how do you start building your safety anchor and making sure you have these two components locked in place? The first thing you want to do is you want to be aware of which mask or masks you have a tendency to grab. In the description in this video, I have a link where I created a test that you just answer these 20 questions and it'll tell you which mask you have a tendency to grab more, like your favorite mask, maybe your secondary mask. But after you answer these questions, it'll tell you kind of which one you want to look out for. And that's really the step one, is awareness. You really want to be aware of, okay, I have a tendency to put this mask on, and I want to be aware of when it's on. Okay, there's nothing wrong necessarily with wanting to perform, wanting to achieve, being aware of things around you and making sure things are okay as the protector. Sometimes it's okay to do things on your own and you need to be able to do that. And sometimes it makes sense to be aware of other people's needs and meet them, but you want to do it in a conscious way. You don't want these things to be in the driver's seat and your needs, your desires, your wants are in the back seat just going for the ride. That's going to create an environment opposite of safety. Okay, and so you want to notice the mask that you're wearing. And, at the end of the day, you can ask a couple simple questions. Where did I perform? Where did I please? Where was I the protector? Where was I the pleaser? Just write it down. No judgment, but just start to create awareness there so you can start to see that. That in itself will regulate the nervous system, because just the awareness of the reality of what's going on is actually very regulating to your nervous system. So that first step is very powerful, okay? The second step you can take is to practice small acts of truth or connection to yourself. And that can be relatively simple. You just kind of tune in throughout the day, and I would recommend closing your eyes and just start to tune in to a couple different things. What am I feeling? So those are emotions. What am I sensing? That's physical sensation like thirst, tight, tense, warm, cold. Those are sensations. Feelings are, I feel sad, I feel happy, I feel nothing, I feel numb. Like that's a perfectly okay emotion to name. I feel numb. If you do feel numb, or if that's what you're naming, just ask this question: what's the emotion I feel underneath the numb? So you're just teaching yourself to go a little deeper. So what am I feeling? Emotions. What am I sensing? Right? Sensations. And what am I thinking? And it's very useful to write these things down. The reason why it's important to write these things down is it creates some space between you and the experience and allows you to observe it, which allows you to see it in a particular way so that you can work with it, calibrate it, and adjust it based on what the goal is, right? It's hard to, as I've heard before, you can't change a flat tire from inside the car. You got to get outside of the car so you can look at it and assess and then make a plan. So this is part of that initial process of becoming aware. And like I said, that awareness and observation and separation between you and what's going on is actually one of the first steps to getting your nervous system more regulated and feeling more safe. Because the more disconnected you are from reality, the more unaware you are to what's happening inside of you and what's around you, that connection piece, the more anxiety producing, the more your nervous system is on fire. And the third step is to create like a micro safety ritual. And this can be really simple as taking a 4-sided breath, otherwise known as a box breath, or a breath where your exhale is a little longer than your inhale. So first let's talk about the box breath. Box breath just means that your inhale, then you pause, then you exhale, and then you pause, right? So it's a box. The first part of the box is your inhale. The second part of your box is a hold. The third part of your box is an exhale. And the fourth side of your box is a hold, okay? And because a box, if we want to think of it as a square, all sides are equal. So it's a 4-second inhale, a 4-second hold, a 4-second exhale, and a 4-second hold. So I'll do that with you really quick. So just close your eyes, inhale in through your nose, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. It's that simple. If you do like 5 to 10 cycles of that, your nervous system will immediately start to relax and you'll feel more grounded and connected. Okay, once you do that, then I would recommend just saying to yourself, so you can start to train your mind to know certain things. And one of the things you can say is, hey, in this moment, I'm safe. I don't need my mask. It's okay to be me. It's okay, I'm okay. These are the kinds of things you just say to yourself as you're going through a 4-sided breath. Or the other one that I mentioned is the inhale to be 4 seconds and then the exhale to be 8 seconds. So anytime your exhale is longer than your inhale, it will calm your nervous system down. I like to try for the double, but sometimes it's not easy to hold your exhale for that long. So just make sure it's at least 6 seconds. It does take a little training and practice to get good at these breathing techniques, because sometimes they're very hard, especially if we're stuck in that kind of chronic stress. We're kind of stuck in that shallow breath. But a 4-second inhale with an 8-second exhale kind of looks like this. So if you close your eyes, inhale through your nose, 2, 3, 4, and then exhale out of your nose, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale through your nose, 2, 3, 4. Exhale out of your nose, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These 2 breathing techniques are an excellent way to down-regulate your nervous system. Now, that in itself is helpful, but it's not the end of this. This is why just doing these breathing techniques can be helpful, but you want to use these breathing techniques to address the problems here, which is your safety anchor is probably not anchored in your nervous system. And so if you don't have that safety anchor in your nervous system solidified, you're going to be dysregulated. I don't care how much breathing and meditation you do. You have to answer the nervous system's need to feel safe through feeling valued and being connected to who you are. When I walk people through this process in 1 or 2 sessions, 1 or 2 calls, just bringing people's attention to this, instantaneously they feel a shift, a trajectory change inside of this pattern they've been inside of, which is just this chronic stress cycle, I call it. Just starting to anchor, get connected to your safety anchor, even acknowledging its existence and learning how to do this, immediately the nervous system starts to shift. The trajectory changes. Super, super powerful. Here's the key, guys. Peace is not something you just stumble upon. It's something you build when you know you're valued and when you're connected to yourself and the environment. You live in the truth. You live in reality. If this resonated with you, make sure you share it with some friends, subscribe to my channel. There's a way out of the chronic stress loop, and it starts with anchoring safety into your nervous system.